Hello, good evening. If you are watching tonight, you are watching live on Tuesday, December 8th, 2020. And it's been a beautiful day here in Portland, Oregon. I'm wearing my mask, making sure that we're safe. Our show tonight is in studio at Willamette Falls Media Center here in beautiful downtown Oregon City. And we have a lot to talk about tonight. First off, though, I'd like to just take a moment or two before our first guest calls in and just do a debrief real quick with you as to the results of the recent election. As many of my consistent viewers know, we broadcasted live on election night. We're able to share with you the results of many of the different elections on a local and a regional basis, and obviously on a national basis. We're still going through the Trump exercise of disputing everything and anything that he can, and I think his record now is 1-36 or something like that. But I did want to just take a moment and just express my pure relief my pure relief and that the confidence that I had in Americans and the voters in America actually came through and was supported. There had been a lot of fear by a lot of people as to the outcome of this election and what it would say about us as a country and what it would say about us and what we're willing to accept. And I think we got the opportunity to see as a country a complete repudiation of that type of extremism that we had to endure over the last 4 years with Trumpism. And it was morally, it just filled my heart with joy to see the types of responses of people, the pride that they took in casting their vote, in doing their civic duty, participating in the civic process. So, no matter who you voted for, I think that you really need to feel good about the process and not listen to the Republican leadership in their attempts to try to dissuade you from the reality of our democracy in action. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank each and every one of you for taking the time to vote, for getting involved, for writing the postcards, for going out and talking to your friends and to your neighbors, for expressing your opinion in any way that you were able to during these crazy 2020 times. Because it worked. It worked. It made a difference. Even something as small as writing postcards or standing on a corner. I mean, throughout this whole election season, I was just shocked and amazed at how individualized this expression of democracy was for people. They knew that they couldn't make a big difference, a difference from the 10,000-foot level, but they could make a difference in their neighborhoods. They could make a difference in their communities. And by encouraging people to vote, by encouraging people to participate in the process, by instilling that confidence that comes from being an American citizen to get out there and to exercise that muscle, that democracy muscle. So in that, please take heart in what you saw during this election season and use it as fuel for your fire. Because we're not done yet. We're not done yet. We still have elections coming up in January that will determine the majority in the U.S. Senate. And so we've got to make sure that we get John Ossoff and we get the Reverend Warnock elected down there in Georgia. And there are ways that you as an individual can participate in that beyond just even making a donation. I mean, that's a huge step right there. A $5 donation to a campaign in Georgia is a clear statement. It's a clear statement of you and your values. So do something like that. Get involved. Participate, donate, There are the rise in the local community groups that have been participating in the process, that have been taking action steps. I'm sure that there are some of those in your neighborhoods, in your communities, that you can start to tap into. And if you have an individual desire to express yourself, do it. I mean, one of the coolest things that I saw here recently during that election cycle was I pulled over at a 7-Eleven on Barber Boulevard, and I noticed when I got out of my car, there was this young man on the other side of the road walking down the road, and he's carrying a sign while he's walking down the road. And I couldn't figure out what he was doing. And so when I left the parking lot, I drove by him, made it a point to drive by him. He was carrying a Black Lives Matter sign while walking down the street. And he would receive the occasional honk of the horn in support. And you could just see the joy and the smile on his face, the expression, that camaraderie that he knew that he had with that person when they honked. And it kind of filled him with even more energy to express himself. You know, that to me kind of epitomizes what we as individuals can do to change things and to affect things in our community. So. Yeah, hats off to that young man for doing what he'd had to do to express himself, to try to change minds. And that's why we do this crazy game called politics. Because, you know, it's up to us as individuals to affect this type of change. And in that vein, I want to talk about our guest tonight, who will be calling in here shortly. I'll give her a full introduction here after we start our discussion, but there has been an opening of a state senate, Oregon State Senate seat. Shemia Fagan, who recently won her election for Oregon Secretary of State, was a state senator, and she represented State Senate District 24. Well, State Senate District 24 is partly in Multnomah County and partly in Clackamas County. It's a rather large district, a diverse, amazingly diverse district. Well, anyhow, she got elected as our new Secretary of State as of January 1st, but she decided to resign the seat, her state Senate seat, her old state Senate seat, early to allow for a process to have a replacement candidate, a new senator appointed to her seat, to fill out the rest of her term, which is, if I remember correctly, at least another 2 more years in that seat, and we'll learn a little bit more as soon as Adrian calls in. But so that leaves an opportunity for a new senator to be appointed, and the whole appointment process is quite an interesting little process. When a sitting elected official, a legislator, resigns or mid-term, there is a process to replace that. They have to be replaced. And it's not an actual special election. Those special elections are limited to congressional seats, U.S. congressional seats. The Constitution mandates that they have to be elected. And so if somebody like, for instance, Marcia Fudge, Representative Marcia Fudge from Ohio is being considered for the Health and Human Services Secretary by the Joe Biden administration, the upcoming Biden administration. Marcia Fudge is a congresswoman representing Ohio's 11th district, Cleveland, Akron. If she is appointed, she obviously has to resign her seat. And if she resigns her seat, as a congressional district, as a legislator, a federal legislator, they have to have that seat, they have to have an actual election to replace her. So there's going to be a scramble, and this is all fact that's actually happening as we speak. I venture to say that they're going to have a replacement election, a special election for this particular woman, Marcia Fudge, probably in February, the first part of February. They can't last because of the transition, and the Biden administration has to be codified by the 20th of January, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's different appointment processes, there's different replacement processes involved when it comes to a federal seat and a state seat. And what we're going to be talking about here soon is the state seat, a senatorial seat, and the replacement process, the appointment process. Fundamentally, and as someone that has actually gone through the appointment process twice, was considered as a replacement in a House legislative seat, House District 38. Basically, the party that that person is aligned with, be it the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, the precinct committee people, which are the representatives of that party in the neighborhoods, the precinct committee people within that Senate district have first the opportunity to nominate and to choose a slate of 3 to 5 potential candidates. And they vote on them, and it's an actual process of vote. They gather and they actually do this. And then what happens from there is that those candidates that they choose are presented to the county commissioners in each of those counties, in the counties that that seat is a part of. So for instance, in Senate District 24, we have 75% of that Senate district is in Multnomah County, and 25% of that is in Clackamas County. So the challenge is that you have to have 2 different counties involved and the commissioners from both of those counties. Yes, I do actually, here. Looks like we're having some challenges in getting my guest involved, so let me get my production man the correct phone number, and we're going to call her. This is live improvisation here, folks, so give us a quick second. And here. Okay. So, looks like we've been having some technical problems in making sure that Adrienne can call in, but we're going to call her directly so that we can just patch her in and we can have that interview. So, long story short, there's an appointment process, and Adrienne, our guest, Adrienne Enghouse, RN, is one of the candidates that is vying for that appointment to the seat. Now, it's early in the process because the resignation of Shemia Fagan was effective on December 1st. And so on the 15th of this month, there's going to be a virtual convention of the precinct committee people from both Multnomah County and from Clackamas County for them to have the opportunity to vote on who they feel would be the candidates that they want to present to the county commissioners in both Multnomah and in Clackamas County. So right now there are, if I understand correctly, right now there are 3 candidates that are vying for this appointment, and we'll be speaking with one of them, Adrienne. There was 2 other people. One other person recently not declined, but withdrew their desire to run for the appointment, withdrew their candidacy. That's the word I'm looking for, withdrew their candidacy. So there's only 3 now. So it does kind of narrow the field a little bit. And one of the reasons that I was motivated to bring our guest, Adrienne Enghouse, RN, onto the show was I was very impressed with Adrienne's breadth of experience and also the depth of her relationships here locally. And those are 2 things that you just have to have when you're going to be working at the legislature. You have to know what you're talking about down there, know what the issues are, and have some cognizance of what those issues are and what are good solutions to those issues. And then also you have to have relationships. You have to have the relationships with the different entities, the different groups that are already down there in Salem, and so that you can actually get some work done. So that's what's impressed me about Adrienne, and so that motivated me to want to put her on the show tonight and get to know her a little bit better, and so that you can get to know her a little bit better, and we can kind of take it from there. But the appointment process is a kind of a funky process, and it should be all finished by, I would say, the end of the month, because obviously they have to, by January 1st, have to have it in. Are we good to go? Oh, okay, she's calling in right now. Now we're about to transfer the call. I hope. Technical, this must be a 2020 broadcast because, you know, the high-tech stuff is just also when the little gremlins get in the way. But it'll be interesting. See, there we go, folks. All right, thank you for hanging in there with me, everyone. And let's bring in Adrian. Hello, good evening, Adrian. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Hey, first off, let me just quickly introduce you to my viewers. Folks, as I've been talking about for the past couple of moments, I have on the line with me Adrian Enghouse, RN. Adrian is a nurse. And Adrian is a candidate for the appointment to replace Shemia Fagan in State Senate District 24. So, hey, thank you very much for taking some time out of your day tonight.
Oh, happy to. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, hey, one of the things that I always ask a candidate is as a first question is a simple one. Why? Why are you motivated to be a candidate in the for a Senate seat in the legislature? What's your motivation?
Well, I've actually been motivated for a number of years. I went to the labor candidate school. I attended the emergency boot camp. So I've been doing this. I had my eye on doing this for a while. But with the onslaught of a pandemic and COVID and watching the state response, now's the time. Now's the time for another nurse to be in the Senate. Rachel Prusak's over in the legislature. She's a friend of mine. Dr. Hayward Steiner and Dr. Dexter are in the House and the Senate, respectively. So now's the time.
Yeah.
We have the next couple of years. We'll be recovering from this, probably for longer than 2 years. But it is definitely something that we need to be addressing, and I think I bring that expertise because not just am I a nurse, I'm a labor leader. I've negotiated many contracts. I've helped develop jobs. I've worked on unionizing people and looking out for them and their safety interests. We have essential workers whose safety interests have not been looked out for. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we have other issues, too. We have environmental issues. And I'm tenacious, and I'm a champion, and the Senate needs a progressive woman who will champion our issues and get some work done down there.
I can appreciate that. You know, let me ask you, let's expand a little bit more about your nursing background. Point blank, how has the pandemic affected you in regards to personally and in regards to this appointment process?
Well, in the beginning, I was still working for the union, so I negotiated one of the first on the West Coast, definitely, labor agreements that allowed us to not lose our jobs. Yeah. So really quickly, we got that in place. We got in place an ability to get into meetings and be able to know how much PPE there was. On the phone with Merkley's office right away, letting him know what was going on in the state. We had one of the first cases out in Hillsborough with the hospital I represent. So that was the first thing that impacted me. It was just like all of a sudden lightning struck, and I had to get into action right away. Right. Then I had some time off, so I have been, I was at home and being kind of isolated, which ended up being good for me, but it is not good for the people of Oregon. But we still need to do it. We're going to have to do it longer, and that's unpopular to say, but the truth is we've got to get this under control. And so I was at home for a while this summer, and then I just started working for my international union, the American Federation of Teachers. And so I have been probing in hospitals, looking into hospitals that aren't unionized. And, recently I was in a hospital, I was working, and it's scary. The ICU's at 138% capacity. Rooms are being shared. The 2 ventilated patients are in one room. 2 patients are in lots of ICU rooms. So there's ICU patients. They've also just erected pop-up ICUs in places. And this is going on, all over the country. Oregon, some of the things we've done right. So this hasn't happened to us yet. And so I'm really proud of that, and it's still coming, and we need to be prepared. And so when I get report with my colleagues, you can just see the look in their eye. I mean, just like, what other standard are we going to lower to be able to take care of patients? What other patients are we going to miss in the ER because we've got an entire unit full of COVID patients? Everyone feels, they kind of look like they've been to war. They just kind of have that look about them right now.
That, it's hard to internalize as someone that, has not been on the front lines like yourself, to really comprehend this wave and how it's affected the hospitals and their ability to, and the nurses, the healthcare providers. How are you during this? Let me ask you that.
Well, I've been a nurse for 23 years. I've been through a couple of these things. This by far is the worst. And I'm fine. I just want to see more people protected. I want to see more PPE. I want to see more jobs. I want to see people. I mean, jobs are going to go away and never come back. I guess my biggest thing through all of this has been worrying about people in Oregon and my colleagues, and how this is going to impact them, and what we can do proactively to protect them, and what are we doing to plan ahead in the next month and 6 months and a year, so that people roll out of this and they can roll out of it and recover. So those are the kind of things I'm mostly worried about. Mm-hmm. I think about. And I also worry about people who've contracted COVID and are never going to be able to go back to work because of it. Their lungs are trashed. Their neurons are trashed. They're weak. They have short-term memory loss. They can't breathe. These are people who are athletes.
Right.
And so those are the people I also really worry about, because they may be permanently disabled, and they're young. They're 32, they're 35. So I worry about those people. I guess to answer your question, I'm worried. I'm worried about all of those things.
Well, I imagine, being in the Oregon legislature could give you a unique opportunity to be able to help people. Tell me a little bit about this appointment process. How did this become I explained a little bit before your call that it had been replaced by, it was Shemia Fagan's seat. Give us your impressions on the selection process and how that the decision is made to appoint a replacement for Shemia.
So at first, the PCPs, the precinct committee people for the district, come together and they will vote. Mm-hmm. And once they vote on who they want, and there's a little process to get just before that to get them organized and how the weighted votes happen. And once that vote happens, then they will send forward the person to the county commissioners, and then the county commissioners will interview these people. The three of us are all three going forward because Representative Reardon has removed himself from the race. Mm-hmm. And so the three of us will be going forward. The interview process is rigorous. I don't think that any of our commissioners are lightweight. They're definitely looking out for the county, and they will be looking out for the state, and they're going to ask some tough questions. So just preparing for that, and then they'll decide. They'll vote and they'll decide. So.
I'm sure that this has created opportunities for you to have a lot of talks, discussions with people from the district. Yeah. Are there, how are they feeling? And how are those issues working out? What are the most important issues there in the district?
The one I'm hearing the most is housing. There's really not a lot of housing and affordable housing, and I think the people in District 24 are worried about the people that live on the street. They want to see them off the street. And that's the number one issue I hear about. In terms of COVID, every PCP I've spoken to has said they're okay. They're employed, they're okay, they're working from home, or they are doing something along those lines, and they feel comfortable right now. Because that's always the first question I ask is, how is COVID? How are you handling the COVID orders and staying at home? And so that's been pretty decent. And housing is a big issue. Also, campaign reform has come up a few times, and how the process of voting, ranked voting, has come up a few times, which I thought was interesting. Given what's going on in the world, campaign reform is on their mind, and I don't blame them. I think it's a great thing to have on all our minds.
Well, and campaign finance reform is a hot topic because in November there was a ballot measure that would change the Oregon Constitution to allow limits to be imposed, campaign finance limits. And it passed by over 75% approval in pretty much statewide. So I'm kind of not surprised that that's a big issue. Ranked choice voting, that's an interesting issue. I'm aware of it, I'm familiar with it. I don't know how the importance of it in the sense of what is more important, true campaign finance reform to prevent legalized bribery, if you will, these huge campaign donations from the Phil Knights at $1 million for a campaign, versus the ranked choice voting, which allows for small, if I understand correctly, it's a kind of a top two, is that correct? Or is that, maybe I'm getting my methods mixed up here.
Yeah, it does. I think it does. The ranked voting. I've heard a lot of people have interest in it. I think that's the way that you get the more ability for third parties to be involved. Is the ranked choice, and so I think that's very important to explore that. And I think Oregon's super progressive around their voting practices, so I don't think that'd be a hard thing to champion at all.
Well, I do know that in the Senate, Senator Jeff Golden has been a real proponent of campaign finance reform, a real hero when it comes to that. So it'd be good to. When you're in the Senate, it'll be good to have another champion for it.
Yeah. I can't wait to work on that. So that's important.
Well,
Shamia was the same way. So she really limited what she would take in campaign finance, and I want to do the same thing.
Very good. Now,
in fact, this appointment I have funded myself. I just financed it myself, which it's been very low budget. I've not done mailers to homes because I thought for the environment that was bad. I've just been really Facebook and sending emails. So.
Well, that's good though. I mean, in the sense of kind of a homegrown approach to it. Now, let's talk a little bit though about relationships. You have some pretty strong relationships with people down in the legislature and those in groups down there, don't you?
I feel like I do. I've been a member of the AFL-CIO, and I was on the board, so I'm very familiar with Graham and Jess and the staff at the AFL. I'm very familiar with Governor Brown. I've had short conversations with her about staffing and other issues and healthcare reform. We need healthcare for everyone now. We can't wait. It's important because of COVID. It's really laid wide open why we need that. Rob Nost is someone I'm familiar with. People that came out of the labor candidate school, I have relationships with that are down there. A couple of the commissioners came out of Emerge. So I have relationships with people, and I've been down there testifying on numerous topics. So I've built relationships down there over the years.
Well, that's fantastic. And I think the relationship factor is such a important one when it comes to being able to hit the ground running down there. And
Yeah.
that's going to really, it sounds like that could really work to your advantage.
Well, and that's my nature anyway, is to build relationships so that once you build this relationship and you get to know people and know them personally, it builds credibility. Because you're not just after something, you want to know them. And that's important. You have to build credibility with each other so that when it gets tough and you have to make tough decisions, you have to have really hard conversations, then you lean into those conversations because you have a relationship. So I think it's really important to develop those relationships, even the ones I don't have with my colleagues across the aisle.
Right. Well, you know, as we get down here to the last few minutes of our talk, what message would you like to leave my viewers with and voters with in regards to your candidacy? Do you have a message that you'd like to share?
Well, I'm a champion for people. I'm a champion for healthcare, and I'm a champion for jobs and good working conditions, the labor community, and I'm tenacious and I'm determined. So I believe going to Salem, I will be able to really champion issues that are going to have a direct impact back in my district, whether that's about jobs and safety, whether that's about COVID and what's coming out of there, whether that's about money coming from for COVID relief, all those things. I mean, we need COVID relief now. We need it yesterday. I don't know why the Senate's not in session fixing this.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I will be a fighter and a champion for everything that is important to you, because I'm one of you. I'm a neighbor, I'm a nurse, I've taken care of you. That's probably my biggest message. I will fight for you.
Very good. Very good.
What's important to you is important to me. So, yeah.
Well, and so when will the convention of the precinct committee people occur, and when will the meetings with the commissioners occur? Is that coming up soon?
So right now, they are not going to have a convention.
Mm-hmm.
They're voting by paper ballot. So
Okay.
that's all happening. The count will be on the 15th. So we will know on the 15th the ranked order of the three people. So that will go forward. And then I do not know when the commission will meet. I mean, trying to get, 9 busy commissioners together in the last 2 weeks of the year ought to be an impressive stunt for their administrative assistants to pull off. So.
And that's, and I didn't realize, of course, it's going to be virtual.
We don't know when it will happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be when the commissioners are available, and then we will be there. It's a public meeting. I invite people to watch.
Agreed. You know, if you'd like to learn more about Adrienne and her candidacy and her issues, you have a Facebook page, don't you? Or can people do you have a way people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, Inghouse A, ENGHOUSEA at yahoo.com.
Okay.
And or Adrienne Inghouse, ENGHOUSE on Facebook. There are only 5 Inghouses in the entire world, so one of them is named Adrienne. Click on that one. Or follow me on Twitter at Ms. Inghouse, and or follow me on Instagram at Ms. Inghouse. So any of those ways. Also, you know, I love to talk to people. Message me on Facebook, and I will respond and talk to you about issues and how you see the world.
Wonderful. That sounds great. Okay, well, thank you for taking some time out of your busy day, I'm sure, to talk about your candidacy, and all the best. I look forward to bringing you back onto the show when I can refer to you as Senator Inghouse.
I look forward to that too, Moses. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I will always have space on my calendar for you and your show, so thank you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you very much again. Take care.
Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You know, one of the things that I love about politics is the sincerity of people when they, in their desire to run for elected office. You can usually tell very quickly if they're in it for ego or if they're in it for values. And many candidates, I'm sure people have seen them out there. You have that, the initial impression is that they're doing it to satisfy their ego, not necessarily doing it to represent the public, you know. And I have been very impressed with Adrienne and her expression of her values as it relates to her candidacy. So I'm thank you for her for watching our little interview with Adrienne, and I'll definitely report back to us here soon in the next show as to whether she was successful or not. Just to take a quick break and let people know, you are watching Progressive Radio on TV. I am your host, Moses Ross. And this is, if you're watching us on December 8th, Tuesday, December 8th, you're watching us live. I'm always open to talk to somebody out there in the viewing public. You're welcome to give us a call here on the live line at 503-650-0198. And one real quick side note, if you would like to do your own television show on cable access, Willamette Falls Media Center has the tools and has the information to share with you to be able to empower you to do that. Willamette Falls Community Media Center, their address is right there on the screen. Marv, thank you as always for all of your help, and Josh. Oh, and we've got a call. Oh my goodness. Sorry about that. That took me by surprise. So if you are so motivated to get involved and do something, and you want to express yourself and your opinions on cable access, your passions, by all means, give them a jingle and learn and take the necessary classes. They're available for us, and you'll really enjoy it. That's one of the things that I really enjoy about doing this show for folks is just the opportunity to share my perspective as far as politics go and my observations of it. Probably you'd call me not a failed candidate, but a candidate, a wannabe candidate. You know, that's probably why I always have candidates on here and people on here that are running for office, and have so much respect for them for going through that process. You know, so as I say, if that's something that you would like to do, please do. Absolutely. As we get into the second half of the show, we've got about 20-25 minutes left in the show. You're very welcome to call in. I did want to mention that there is a lot coming up come January when it comes to the legislature. Oh, let me take this phone call. Here, let's see who's on the line first. Hi, welcome to Progressive Radio on TV. You are live. Hi, is this Carl?
Yeah, it's Carl.
My viewers may remember Carl Fisher. Carl Fisher is a Democratic Party activist out there in Washington County. He was on the show with me the other day. And hey, how are you today, Carl?
I'm pretty good.
Well, I just had a great little interview with Adrienne Enghouse, who is considering is a candidate for the appointment for State Senate District 24. Yeah. And I was just sharing with people about how that appointment process works and what motivates someone to get into something like that. You've had your share of, you have your experiences with the appointment process.
Yeah.
Tell me your impressions of how that would work. Does it work? How the candidates, have you been in? Please share with me your thoughts about that.
Well, I mean, I think, these appointment processes are, they're needed because, vacancies happen at unpredictable times. Mm-hmm. And so you need to have somebody to be able to step up and say, hey, I'm going to be the state rep, and the precinct committee people and the county commissioners all get their say. And then ultimately, regardless of what these PCPs pick and the county commissioners pick, the voters have the final say. because this person still has to run for election in front of the voters, and the voters will get to decide ultimately.
Yeah, it is just a temporary process, a temporary appointment in that sense. They're just fulfilling the rest of the term. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, and ultimately, you know, at the very beginning of the show, I was sharing with people the contrast between, say, a congressional vacancy and a statewide vacancy, and the difference between the appointment process and a special election. And I know that in Congress, you know, you'd have to, like, say, for instance, if Kurt Schrader resigned tomorrow, there would have to actually be a special election, a congressional special election. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I was curious too, Carl. I know that you were very active during this last election cycle. I'd love to do a real quick debrief with you about your thoughts and your impressions about what we just went through as a state, as a local community, and maybe nationally here.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my big takeaway working in Washington County primarily is that the suburbs were just overwhelmingly Democratic this year. Hillary Clinton in 2016 in Washington County, I think she got 57% of the vote in Washington County, and Joe Biden this year got 66% of the vote.
66.
There was a 9-point shift, you know, increase for the Democrats, and Trump held the line at 31%.
Wow.
So it didn't seem like he converted anyone new to vote for him. He just, you know, held his band of people together.
Right. Well, you know, and that was kind of reflective nationwide too, as far as the turnout, presidential election turnout. These across-the-board increases in voter participation. But what I thought was interesting was the amount of the undervote in at least here locally, statewide and locally.
Well, I mean, there was a huge undervote when you, so in Washington County, I think Joe Biden got like 320,000 some odd votes. Or not, yeah, I think I was doing the Washington County numbers. And so you look at the votes for, you know, the next most competitive race, which I think we can all agree with, Secretary of State's race, there were only 306,000 total votes. So there's about, you know, a 14,000 vote difference between the top race and that next competitive race.
Wow.
There was a lot of drop-off voters between those two races.
What do you attribute that to? Do you attribute that to people just wanting to make a statement against Trump?
I think so. I can't imagine, you know, myself really taking a ballot, you know, getting my ballot sent to me and filling it out, and only filling out one race or two races on.
Right.
You know, if I get that thing, you know, I'm one of those people, you know, I fill in every single race. You know, I've read the voters count, but I guess there are people out there who just say, oh, yeah, voting for president, that's the only important thing I need to do today.
You know, that is amazing to me. I mean, because for the reason that you give. I mean, if you've got a ballot in front of you, you might as well fill the whole darn thing out. I wonder how much of that is just lack of confidence in the election, in those particular elections. You know, in other words,
I don't know if it's lack of confidence in those elections, maybe, but maybe like lack of knowledge.
yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know who's on my local parks board, so I'm not going to vote for any of those people.
And you know what's interesting too is, you know, much has been made about how the Republican Party over the last decade, 2 decades, has made it a point to fill those local and municipal elected positions with partisan candidates.
Yeah.
And basically working in contrast to this whole concept of undervoting, right? And I've always wondered, I've always felt that the Democrats have a golden opportunity when they do have these blue waves to do just that, to be able to make sure, like in 2018.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like you don't hear the Republican Party discussing about undervotes too much.
No, I mean, you don't hear them talking about the great candidates they have for local races. I mean, this was a year, in Washington County, the Washington County Democrats, I think all but maybe one of our endorsed candidates, nonpartisan candidates, won their election.
Wow. You know, now here, contrast that as to what happened out here in Clackamas County, though, where you had 2 sitting county commissioners, Democrats, replaced by Republicans. And one of them, Tootie Smith, a former chair, coming back for a second act. So I guess what I'm saying is, I question the resolve of the Democratic Party faithful to vote the rest of their ballot.
Yeah.
It seems like it's obviously something that we need to work on.
I mean, I think there's definitely pockets of folks that we need to be able to say, hey, and that's why a lot of campaigns, when they do get endorsed, they do target voters who, maybe they vote, 2 out of 4 elections or something. So they vote sometimes, but maybe, we know most people usually when they vote at the top of the ticket. I mean, I've never heard anyone at the door tell me that, I only vote for the people down below at the bottom of the ticket. I never vote for president or anything.
Right. Well, and you were working on a race, though, where party affiliation made a big difference. We think so. Like we tried, our best to sort of, play into the national atmosphere, and with the way things, clearly went in Washington County, being affiliated with the Democratic Party in Washington County was certainly a good thing. Right, but that speaks to the organization of the Washington County Democratic Party, right? Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to get out the vote. I mean, if you're able to use ride the coattails of the efforts of the local party to get elected, that's a smart strategy. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely, and especially for, in Washington County, for instance, we only endorse nonpartisan candidates who happen to be registered Democrats.
Right.
So if you're a registered Democrat running for local office, it's motivational for you to get involved with the local party and to meet people and to get those folks who go out to the doors every election or write to their neighbors or call their neighbors every election to be talking about you when they talk to their neighbors.
Right. Well, and that leads directly to the program that you've championed for years, and that's the Neighborhood Leader Program within the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And for those viewers that may not know what the Neighborhood Leader Program is, it was a program that was developed specifically to involve more of the community in the election process. Can you give me a better summary of the Neighborhood Leader Program than that?
I mean, I think the easiest way to think about being a neighborhood leader is that you're the trusted messenger in your community when it comes to democratic politics. And so you get a list of your neighbors who are Democrats, and it could be, 30 households, 20 households, 50 households. There are people who take on all sorts of different amounts depending on what they're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And you develop a relationship with those neighbors in the hopes of reminding them to vote every election. Because that's really that's the most simplest, basic thing we can do to turn out the vote. Is to simply just remind people who just maybe need a little nudge.
Right.
Say, hey, don't forget to turn in your ballot when it comes.
And how many people fall prey to that, are susceptible to that? I mean, so many people forget or don't prioritize, or for whatever reason.
They let it sit on the kitchen table for a week, and it gets lost in with all the bills and advertising and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And when you were telling me the other day about the kind of comparisons of the turnout differences with the neighborhood leader program showed.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. I mean, because there was a real
it depends on election. So it's this election where we had unusually higher turnout than normal, or at least between the difference between this election and 2016. And the difference wasn't all that much, but in an election like a local school board election or even the midterms, we saw a 20-point plus difference in turnout between neighborhoods that had a neighborhood leader and those.
Wait a minute, let me rephrase, let me repeat that just to impact that on my viewers here. You saw a 20% increase in voter turnout in neighborhoods that had neighborhood leader programs, that had neighborhood leaders.
Yeah.
That's the difference between a 60% turnout, 6 out of 10, and 8 out of 10, in essence, right?
Yeah.
6 out of...
We had neighborhood leaders this year who had a 100% turnout in their turfs.
I remember some of you folks bragging about the fact that you had 100% turnout. You know, see, wasn't there a little competition to see who had the better percentage of turnout within their turfs?
Oh, I mean, everyone, I mean, has and there's all sorts of, we have, a list of, like 300 neighborhood leaders throughout the county, and they're always, trying to see, okay, who had a bigger turnout.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you see the effects. You actually see the effects of this in how Democrats get elected.
Yeah.
Am I correct on that? I mean, it affected local races dramatically.
Oh, it affected local, and for the fact that a lot of our candidates that we have running now have been neighborhood leaders themselves, and so they see the value in contributing to the local party and doing it still.
And that is the key right there, I would think, is that the potential candidates are getting involved at the grassroots level. They're seeing how the party can help and how the programs can help motivate people. They're leading by example.
Yeah, and even candidates that don't win, keep doing the program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just, yeah, well, exactly. And I mean, and that's the beauty of the program. It's not just it's not limited. It's meant to be able to allow folks, common folks or regular folks, to be able to get involved in the process and build the relationships. And I think the relationships is the big issue, the big takeaway that we need to have here. It's about building relationships, yes?
Yeah. I mean, that's the first rule, I think, of all politics, is that politics is relational. I mean, no one's going to vote for you just because you said, oh, you should vote for me. You have to, develop a rapport with the voter in some way and, explain to them, why would you be a good candidate? It's the same thing in the neighborhood. Why would anybody listen to a perfect stranger come to the door and say, hey, vote for this person? Right,
exactly. You're gonna trust the opinion of your neighbor, someone that lives right down the street, more so than someone that's been shuttled in.
Yeah.
And that truly is the power of the Neighborhood Leader program, isn't it? Is that, if they have a question, they can always just walk the 2 doors down and ask you.
Yeah. I mean, this year with COVID-19 going on, I didn't get to go door to door. I had to mail a little letter this year, which I normally do anyway, but I normally, follow up that, letter with a door knock.
Right.
So this year, I'd just be out, working in the yard or working in the garage with the garage door open, and people would walk by who had gotten a letter and they had a question they'd ask. And they felt comfortable just stopping there and saying, hey, Carl, I got that letter from you. Thank you for that letter. I had a question.
Ah, very good. Very good. I see exactly what you're saying. Yeah. It's the idea that you're the local expert. You're the local representative of the party, and they know that. And so they're going to come to you first if they have a question when it comes to voting, when it has a question relating to upcoming elections, et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty powerful stuff, that personal, that personal one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I think that also defines a good candidate, don't you think? That ability to be able to bring it down to an individual level like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's one of the challenges of a good candidate, I guess, is to show that you care and to show them, that voter, that, yeah, they want to know that you care about them. They don't necessarily care about you, but they want to know that you care about them before they vote for you, yes?
Yeah, it's that whole, we've seen very smart people run for office all over this country and this state and in our communities, but if voters don't know that why you care or that you care, they don't care how smart you are.
Right. Well, and what we're talking about here, folks, is politics 101, grassroots politics 101, getting down there and talking to neighbors and sharing with them your opinions and building that relationship with them. I think that it gets overlooked, in this time of media, social media, and of, big ticket advertising. It's easy to forget that it takes that one-on-one relationship. Would you agree, Carl?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, I've only got about about 2 minutes left in this show. Is there any words of wisdom or any particular issue that you would like to share with the viewers in that period of time?
I would say, the secret to success for the next year's elections in 2021 locally is if you sign up to be a local neighborhood leader. So go to your county party's website or go to the DPO's website, the Democratic Party of Oregon, and sign up to be one.
Yeah. That's succinct and to the point. I appreciate that, Carl. I think that, that's a first good step, is to get tapped in.
Yep.
Well, great. Well, hey, Carl, I really appreciate you giving me a call tonight, and I liked talking about things with you, politics with you, and the viewers who enjoy that. And all the best to you. Happy holidays to you and your family. Please stay safe.
Thank you. I will.
Okay, you take care.
Bye.
All right, see you later. Wow. I just realized, you know what? We have holidays coming up. We have Christmas coming up. And this is a Christmas time that is unlike any other kind of a Christmas I've ever experienced. 2020 has been such an amazing challenge for everybody. And the fact that you're sitting here watching me and I have a platform and I'm able to do it safely with people that are being safe, I'm very appreciative and honored to be able to be here to do this. Just to kind of try to impart some sense of normalcy to folks. But having said that, I have my mask and I wear it, and I hope you do too. And this Christmas season we might not be able to be with our loved ones as much as we want, but we will get through all of this, As someone who hasn't seen their mother, my mother is 80 years old, and I've seen her once in the last 8 months, and because of the restrictions at the nursing home facility, and that's good. I mean, I'm glad that they're doing that. They're being that restrictive, because we can't get COVID in. We got to keep it safe. So my point is, folks, wear your mask. Do the right thing. Let's get through this, and we'll come out the other side. Next show is in January. Look forward to seeing you then.